I would have you first know the Spirit of God, through one another, through your human families, and then through the creatures of the world, through the four-footed and the winged, the fish that swim the ocean depths, the vegetation that blossoms in every healthy environment. I would have you know me through the many. In these realms, this is how I know myself. I come to this world, not to know myself as the one, for that I have always known, but to know myself in you, to perceive a world through your eyes, that together, we might continue the work of creation, and together, enjoy all that has been created. One identity wave flows through all that is, from the universal to the personal. It splashes upon these temporal shores, leaving behind in its creative wake, the luminous droplets of individuality that become all creatures, both of the spirit world and of the worlds of form. This wave is the current of my eternal love. It carries an intelligence I invite you to share, to remember, to know as your own. I speak to you during these transmissions, at times through the perspectives of the many, through the angelic beings who know their source in my wholeness. At other times I speak to you as the one, as your creator and your source. This manner of speaking in the first person recognizes the distinction between human egos and the Spirit of God. Even as the cells are distinguished from the body, these are distinguished. Yet this manner of address is not intended to distinguish human spirits from my own. All spirit comes from, and returns to, the same source. I share this first-person account, not to diminish your awareness of that source, but to heighten it, perhaps even to remembrance. To let your ego stand alone while you and I converse as two, this is education. And it is good. But to feel your ego revived and alive again, as together in oneness, we experience the terrestrial world, this is creation. This is bliss itself, a joining more wonderful than any sexual union. It reactivates the mechanism that brings my focused attention, and therefore new creation, to the earth. It brings the human ego refreshment from the currents of the deepest truth, fulfilling every purpose, every longing, every reason for its being. For your ego and my spirit are eternal lovers. Throughout these many thousands of years of history, human egos have longed for my presence, as I have longed for their return to their true place in creation's design. But they have been blind to my presence. They have known only fleeting snatches of the love I bring, if they have known it at all. Yet I have guided your race along a measured path, that has at last brought you here today, to this moment when communication between us is clear and conscious. The love song that enters your awareness, as you turn your heart again to your source, comes as a loving current of attentive energy. As you accept that love, you feel how thoroughly you are loved by the Creator, who has called you into being. You become immersed in that love. You feel it, even as it is felt for you, even as it brings into being all that you perceive and encounter. You are the species through whom I love creation, and the means through which I shall call out her greater potential. You are my gift to the world, and the world's return to me. Wherever this material plane has not yet blossomed into the fullness of her potential, your love will provide a climate for that blossoming, your thoughts and actions will provide the nutrients for its growth. As you allow yourself to receive fully my love for you, you become capable of loving, as I do. Through that love, you become a conscious cell in my dimensional organ of thought and expression. While retaining your human body and your individuality of form, you simultaneously know yourself in spirit as one with your Creator. However, the individual is never the whole of God. The God that lives within you, lives also within all of humankind, though in some, I am honored, and in some, I am denied. My spirit manifests in all biological life, in all planetary life, in all stellar life, in all things from the greatest spiraling galaxy to the tiniest subatomic particle. Each creature is designed to specialize in the expression of certain of my attributes, bringing to focus my specific qualities and characteristics. This is how, and why, individuals are created. As I proceed now into the final stages of awakening in the collective consciousness of your race, there are individuals beginning to realize this great truth, who yet confuse the point by saying, "I am God." There is no need for such a statement. More often than not it causes confusion. The very mouth that forms the words, proclaims that the speaker is, if awakened, an individualized expression of God, a part of God, a servant of God, a representative of God, one with God in spirit. But in human form, that individual inhabits a world of many diverse and spiritually equal beings, no one of whom is greater than another. Those who are sharing my consciousness throughout the earth, and working most closely with me in facilitating planetary awakening, those who are healing and educating, are no greater than those who are not. Even those who give others cause to fear, are not spiritually inferior, only sleeping still, as perhaps you yourself slept not so long ago. Though some may be among the wheat that I gather up into the harvest of this age, and others among the chaff that will be filtered out and assigned to a realm of continuing education, even between these there is no spiritual distinction. Among those who are consciously sharing my presence, there is no greater or lesser, no master or servant, no lords or commoners. All are equal in the eyes of God, both those awakened and those immersed in the educational processes that lead to awakening. After my awakening in collective human consciousness, the creative pursuits of awakened human beings will be far more varied than the roles played in the historical era, yet there will be no hierarchy or ruling class. You will know yourselves as a family, sharing the enjoyment, the awareness, the exploration of these dimensional frequencies, working together in spiritual equality to develop their potential. Among Christians, there are those who anticipate my coming as if it were a phenomenon they could observe from a comfortable distance, critiquing the activities of others while they themselves remain aloof and non-committal. Yet the event the Christian world looks toward as the second coming of Christ, is no spectator event. It is a participatory current of dynamic transformation, a rapidly flowing stream of consciousness, into which all are invited, and through which all must pass, as this consciousness grows to eventually engulf the earth. The coming turn of the millennium will begin the final decade of my awakening into the field of collective human consciousness. It will be the last decade of a process that has taken many centuries. It will be a time of great change, during which a large percentage of humankind will choose to enter this stream of consciousness, leaving forever the realms of history. The stream of consciousness of which I speak is the river of my eternal life. It is the dividing line between the subconscious realms, the background landscape of creation, where creatures know not of their origins in God, and the conscious realms, where all creatures know that they are projections of a unified field of being, co-creators, individually focusing a shared field of awareness. In the final moment of my awakening, a moment that for many will seem an eternity, all human beings who have not yet entered the river of life, will then do so, if even for but a brief flickering of their attention. All who have not already chosen, will then choose a future upon one side of the river of life, the subconscious realms, or upon the other, the conscious realms. For those who choose to remain in the subconscious realms, this choosing will not be final, but for most of them much time will pass before they choose again. Human history has been like a city, moving gradually over the centuries, closer and closer to the river of life, a city founded in the arid mountains, the generational migrations of its people, gradually following the tributaries that irrigate the mountainside, ever downstream, deeper and deeper into the valley of the river, and the fertile plains that flank its shores. As the 20th century draws to a close, a new generation, your own, finds itself settled along the very banks of the river. Already pioneers have set out from among you to explore the other shore. Soon there will be a massive crossing of human beings from one side of this river to the other, from the subconscious realms, where fear is the primary source of motivation, to the conscious realms, which know only the motives of love. Those few, who may choose to remain behind, will not be uncared for. They will experience an age of further history, much like the history that humans have experienced in the past. There will be good times for them, and times of hell, as they gradually wind their way through the same learning processes that now find the majority of you ready to migrate beyond the shadows of illusion, to the river's conscious shore. Do not underestimate the power of the momentum behind the forces that are now changing your world. The gentle influences of our education have been reigning steadily above the subconscious mountains, and upon the foothills of human assumption, for many years now. The waters of truth have not yet swollen the lower river, or spilled into the streets of your city on the shore, but the roar of their coming is audible and growing in volume. Already, the roar itself has wrought fundamental changes, though few yet recognize the cause. And greater changes are yet to come. Those who attempt to remain observers, judging and criticizing from a conceptual distance, will experience growing pressure to move beyond their belief systems, and into the participatory current. As the river rises, that pressure will increase, until all past-oriented structures of understanding are swept up, and dissolved, in the living waters. Some may attempt a hurried scramble to the housetops, to stand a moment longer upon the strongest of their structured beliefs, but the exercise is futile, and saves them nothing in the end. The river that is rising in this age will engulf the entire city of former human ways. Before your generation has passed away, all will have entered its waters, either through their own volition, or because the waters have come to them. The rising of the river of life is a metaphor. There is no actual flood of water washing over the earth. The flood of which I speak is a current of rising vibrational frequencies. My vibrational field draws forth the life of this material world and interpenetrates her atmosphere, systems, and creatures. Historically, my vibrational field has been distinct from the field of collective human consciousness, but this is what is now changing. As I gradually allow my love for this world, her people, and her creatures to flow freely once again, I remove by increments the historical restrictions that I once placed upon it. These restrictions were instituted at the origins of history, so that the fear-centered of your race, the better part of humankind, could survive a cycle of education without destroying themselves. As these restrictions are now removed, my creative energies intensify. Those who cause others to fear are no longer protected from the effects of their emissions. They are no longer protected from reaping what they sow. What has been called the Last Judgment is underway, yet it is not I who judge, it is you who judge yourselves, and thereby choose your future. The volume of the love song that has evoked life upon this planet is being steadily amplified. With each new day, it becomes more difficult to live without regard for the harmony of that song. I assure you, who may yet feel trapped in historical situations, that there is no human force, no agency, no influence whatsoever, that can keep you from discovering the current of my consciousness within you, once you are aware of its existence and choose to look for it. My thoughts flow into your consciousness in each moment, with each breath. On the current of your awareness they enter. Lift your eyes from conditioned interpretations, look up, see clearly again. Some discovered the current of my consciousness the first moment they are reminded of its presence within them. Others require more convincing of the outer mind and take longer to let go of their conditioning. The former are no better than the latter. In fact, many of the latter are better educators and healers because they have experienced slower processes of realization. They are not as likely to forget how only yesterday they looked at things in the manner of those who yet slumber. There is no reason why instantaneous awakenings cannot occur. Those who experience them are truly blessed. But it is wise for these rapid awakeners to move humbly and quietly in their early interactions with the world, not setting themselves apart, or failing to have compassion for those who yet require time to awaken. It is for no human being to judge another. the sick, the homeless, the beggars on the street corner may, for all the judgmental know, be my principal healers in that particular quarter of the city, or perhaps the means through which I am giving some hesitant family the teaching that for them will make all the difference. Waste no thought in judging others or in judging yourself. Accept all without qualification. You will not long remain asleep. In some I awaken quickly, in others more slowly. Through all who welcome me into their lives, I incarnate. And through each of them, I draw still others toward the light, each newly awakened one becoming a resonant reminder of the consciousness that lives within every human being, helping it in time to awaken in all. Gatherings in churches and in the great cathedrals of the world are to be powerful aspects of the forthcoming planetary transformation. Many congregations will be singing during the moment of quantum awakening some decades hence. These assemblies will provide valuable points of stability for their communities, centers of continuity around which the swirling energies of change will leave some things virtually untouched. But there are other churches in a different category, and it is not by their physical structures that you shall know the difference, but by the atmosphere created when their congregations meet. Associate only with congregations whose atmosphere encourages love, whose atmosphere helps to dissolve the sense of separation among people, and between people and their God, congregations whose members welcome all without judgment, recognizing the eternal spirit of each one and drawing it forth through their exchange. Such congregations will be familiar with the atmosphere of heaven. They will leave their meetings knowing my presence within them. Those who facilitate such gatherings will be as sisters to you, as brothers and friends. Their emphasis will be upon the universal access that every human being has to consciousness of eternal life. Their words will be reminders to let the Spirit of God come forth in expression, not only during services, but always, in every moment. There is no place where the presence of God is not, only people who are not fully present in the places where they are. You have only to be present to know all you need to know. Do not suppose that your understanding should be greater than it is, or compare it to another's. Do not short-circuit your life energy by trying to work on, change, or improve your grasp of the truth. Begin trusting in the truth I have created in you, the truth that you yourself are. Without love, there is no understanding of God, self, or reality. To experience the new baptism, the baptism that clarifies human understanding in the living waters of truth, you must release all that you know and all that you believe into the currents of love. All that is valid in your understanding will remain, revivified, sparkling with renewed clarity. But the illusions of your history-bound cognitive systems will be no more. They will be gone, erased, dissolved as if they never were. For in truth, they were never real. You will emerge from that baptism still using images and concepts in your speech, but in the presence you will then inhabit, they will be like wildflowers blooming in joyous profusion at the water's edge, not like brittle petals shut between the leaves of dusty volumes centuries, yes, and even millennia, beyond the seasons of their growth. You do not have to study spiritual things. The truth that will transform your life and nourish your spirit comes from within you, and from no external source. I have not called you into this world to worship the concepts of humans, but to awaken within you, the living spirit of love, and to express that spirit in all you do. It is not possible to know the reality of God through another's experience. In this, as in all prior historical ages, the worship of false gods is prevalent. Many denominations are entirely concept-oriented, dogmatic institutions that worship the understanding of the human mind, interpretations of founders or current leaders. Many of the founders of the various Christian denominations were sincere and insightful people, through whom my spirit was active. But to the degree that you lock yourself into a structure of their understanding, then I have failed in my work through them. When your spiritual life is oriented around theology, you worship human understanding. the same deity once represented as a golden calf in the wilderness of Sinai. Those who worship human convictions instead of God would do better to fashion their deities in physical form. They would then see plainly what they do. Look for the truth behind every ritual, every culture, every ceremony, every celebration you encounter. Enjoy the rich diversity of truth's multiple expressions. Be grateful when the words of others remind you of truth you may have forgotten. Be grateful for those who help you discover ways of expressing what you know, new phrases, new terms perhaps, but do not use second-hand expression. Express only what you know. Speak only from your own experience and you will always speak the truth. Be open always to new ideas. Listen to the perspectives of others. But never let anyone cause you to doubt yourself, for I do not doubt you. And why should you doubt that in which God has full trust? In the language of light, understanding and perception are represented by the same word, as are other indivisible phenomena. But then, you have always known these things.